So James Blake.
James Blake's the only person on the thing.
Yeah. So
It might not be public. It might not be a public thing yet. It might just be a teaser for just what it's going to be, and they're using James Blake's music.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So basically, what it is, right? Premium content behind a paywall, just like OnlyFans, just like Patreon, right? I think this one is specifically to music streaming. So that being said, I think they're already off to a bad start. I'm not gonna lie, because it's a website, not an app.
Yeah, that's a little rough. For
Yeah.
sure.
So I don't know when the last time
that must be in the plan.
I'm sure it is. Apparently, it came. I mean, James Blake made a little video and he said he's like, this happened very fast. Like, we're gonna update it as we go. But I went on it and I was like, let me take a little look around. Couldn't find anybody except for James Blake. He's got like 4 or 5 unreleased songs on there. And then I was like, I'm an artist. Let me see what happens. Let me sign up. You have to be approved.
Cool.
I don't know if it's cool.
No, I mean, yeah, it's weird. It's kind of a little bit shitty, given that it's supposed to be all about like
independent artists
being an accessible thing for people to,
yeah.
Also, like, what is the grounds to be approved?
I don't know.
See that?
They could just be, honestly, I'll give them a quick out. They could just be waiting. They might not have the back end capability to like run a whole essentially social media platform. They might need to build it first.
Yeah.
And so they might just be like putting everybody on hold through this like approval process. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
He posted another thing today, right before we started the pod, actually, where he was talking about it's not just about raising the value of the music back up, and also like giving independent artists a new platform to try and be successful on, but also that he finds all of the streaming platforms algorithms to be really corrupt, and that like that music culture is changed for the worse by the fact that what songs we choose to pick on albums are affected by what we think the streaming numbers can be or how well they can be playlisted and all that.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. Listen, I love James Blake and I agree with what he's saying, but that's kind of I know you're paraphrasing, but that's always been the case. That is always been the case. And you're telling me that in the past no one thought about radio singles?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I thought it was a little bit silly. I was like, but also it's like
it's the same beef that everyone's had.
It's also kind of bullshit because for every artist that you think is a sellout that only puts out the singles that they think are going to get the most streams, there's a equal artist that is not doing that and is also successful putting out whatever the music is that they want to be putting out. You know what I mean?
I think the problem
and James Blake is talking from the perspective of an artist that makes pretty odd music at times and is also and is also a major label signee. So it's like
I bet he has a real problem. I bet his like there's probably a big disconnect between the music that James makes and like where he's at because he's like you said, the music he makes is not like it's not pop music, but he's a really talented producer. So then he got into like the hip hop world, and now is like in the light of like a pop artist, but making less orthodox music. So I bet his day to day that this dilemma probably takes up a lot of space in his mind. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, I just said it before. I think it's a little bit silly to be like, oh, now you have to like worry about what's going to stream well. You've always had to worry about what's going to get good numbers. Arguably, you had to worry about it more in the past because what?
When you were selling physicals, you know what
selling
I mean?
physicals, and also when the only medium was the radio.
Yeah.
There was literal gatekeepers that you had to please.
Yeah.
I think I understand there's problems with the music industry, and when you talk about maybe like money, I think there's a lot less money going around, but also it's not necessarily it's the graph that everyone talks about that where there used to be like 10 artists. And those 10 artists got all the money. Now there's 1,000 artists, and there's still a similar amount of money, and it's just spread out between those people. if that makes sense. I think now I understand there's problems in the music industry. I understand people aren't getting paid. Fuck, I'm broke as shit. Beginning of the podcast, I'm bouncing checks left and right.
Subscribe.
But we live in the greatest time when it comes to music discovery. How many fucking bands do you see on Spotify with 100,000 monthly listeners? How many bands have you never heard of that you come across and you're like, they're on tour and they have albums out and millions of monthly listeners, and you've never heard of them ever?
Yeah.
The amount of people who have the capability to get a fan base is incredible. Now, to James Blake's point, with things like YouTube, podcasting, and other mediums like that, they have Patreon, right? And things like that. They have figured, because they've been independent a little bit longer, they've figured out how to monetize and be self-sufficient. So I do think that as musicians, we should rack our brains and figure out how to monetize independently from the thing, from like the machine.
I mean, it could be cool.